Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. And on behalf of the County Executive Jan Gardner, the County Council of Frederick County, the Frederick County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association, the Fire Rescue Advisory Board, and truly the citizens of Frederick County, we welcome you to the first Fire Rescue Accreditation Program. My name is Chip Jewell. I'm Deputy Chief and Director of the Division of Volunteer Fire Rescue Service, and it's my honor and pleasure to participate as your Master of Ceremonies. Now would you please rise for the presentation of the colors by the Honor Guard of the Frederick County Fire Rescue Service. At this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance presented by the Fire Prevention Ambassadors, Jacob Naborchek, Ashley Naborchek, and Leah Blake.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. It's my pleasure to introduce the County Executive of Frederick County, County Executive Jan Gardner.
Thank you very much, Chip. You always do such a wonderful job with these recognition ceremonies. To start off tonight, I'd ask you to please join me in a round of applause to show our appreciation for our young fire prevention ambassadors who are with us this evening. I really appreciate these young people and the service they provide to our community. They are our future, and I appreciate your dedication to serve the community in this way. So welcome to this evening's special accreditation ceremony. Tonight, for the first time, we are recognizing the accomplishments of achieving accreditation for our volunteer fire and rescue companies. And I'm pleased to be able to congratulate our volunteers and our volunteer fire and EMS companies and to thank them for the continued high level of service that they provide each and every day to the citizens of Frederick County. Accreditation means that volunteer fire and rescue companies have demonstrated and documented that they are in full compliance with federal, state, and local laws, that they're operationally viable with well-trained personnel, that they're able to meet established response criteria, have facilities and apparatus that meet all standards, and that all operational members have successfully passed medical exams and face-piece fit testing. So why go through an accreditation process? Citizens have a right to feel confident that when they call 911 and call for help, that well-trained and well-skilled personnel will respond to them in a timely manner and provide the assistance that's needed. And accreditation is one way to demonstrate that to our citizens. Achieving accreditation takes a significant amount of time and effort. Accreditation is really a big deal. Each of the organizations earning their accreditation have met rigorous standards and have documented their compliance. Accreditation is a comprehensive, peer-evaluated review that ensures that all of our volunteer companies are operationally viable, capable to provide stellar and timely service to the citizens of the county, and it also assures residents that these fire companies are administratively well managed. Many people support our volunteers and our fire and EMS service with their own donations, and this assures them that that money is being wisely and used and accounted for properly. Accreditation is earned, and again, it's a big deal. Frederick County's accreditation process can serve as a model for other jurisdictions in the state of Maryland. Now, annual evaluations of Frederick County's volunteer fire and rescue companies has occurred over the years, and it's occurred in a number of ways. And one of those ways was through what we dubbed the 10 list. And of course, this annual report identified that a fire and rescue company had 10 operational members or more who lived in the company's first due area and met all the training requirements. And of course, our average citizens never heard about the 10 list, or if they heard about it, they wouldn't know what it was. And it was really not the comprehensive and administrative review that we have now been put in place with accreditation process that really ensures compliance with all federal, state, and local laws. So we really didn't have good ways to track a lot of the areas of compliance in the past. And there were also a lot of ongoing changes in legal requirements over the years. So the county realized that it was time for a more comprehensive annual evaluation to ensure that all of our companies were operationally viable, well-trained, and met all federal, state, and local requirements. So Fire Chief Tom Owens and Deputy Chief Chip Jewell began developing an accreditation manual about 2 years ago. And they did this with the input of the Fire and Rescue Advisory Board, as well as the Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association. The association reviewed the manual, and a pilot program was conducted before the manual was finally adopted in August of 2016. Volunteer leadership went through training last fall, and company members spent the next several months compiling their documentation and undergoing on-site evaluations and peer reviews. Becoming fully accredited took a great deal of time and effort from each of the companies that we're recognizing this evening. The process was one of the most comprehensive evaluations that we've ever done in Frederick County. The manual has 80 pages or so outlining criteria for accreditation. Documents had to be provided to verify numerous requirements. For instance, to confirm that the organization was legally incorporated by the state of Maryland, that the organization was legally authorized as a tax-exempt charitable organization, that the officers in the organization showed that they met operational certification qualifications, demonstrated minimum response time criteria was being met, that facilities and apparatus met standards, and that all operational members successfully passed medical evaluations and face-piece fit testing, as well as that the company demonstrated that all emergency medical service providers have been trained in federal HIPAA requirements, which is really important. Companies have tracked a lot of things over the years, including LOSAP, the Length of Service Awards programs, ensured that drivers were licensed, ensured that physicals were done, and it really is a lot of information to document. This same information will be needed to be provided to achieve and renew accreditation each year. But of course, the first year is the toughest year because it's a new process. All the information has to be gathered and put together into this manual. So annual updates should be much easier. And of course, everyone learned from the first year of the new accreditation process. The process did take us a little bit longer than we anticipated. Few companies needed to renew their charters. Some volunteers needed to update their physicals or some other certifications. But once all these things were identified, companies were quick to take action and achieve full compliance. Any company that was partially accredited is being assisted to become fully accredited. We want every company to be able to say that they meet these tough standards. The Fire and Rescue Advisory Board is matching up experienced experts to serve as advisors in areas where some weaknesses may have been identified. If, for example, a financial issue was found, Deputy Chief Chip Jewell, who is the director of the County Division of Volunteer Fire and Rescue Services, will pull together a team of people with experienced treasurers to help that corporation with that area. Operational issues, likewise, might require assistance from long-time experienced line officers in the county. Ultimately, all of our goals, our collective goal, is to help every corporation reach full accreditation. In the end, our citizens know and can be confident that all of our volunteer fire and rescue organizations that serve the county meet all federal, state, and county code requirements, that everyone meets all operational and administrative policies and procedures that are set out in the accreditation manual. Residents can feel confident that if they call for help, somebody will show up who is well-trained and can respond to any range of circumstances. I want to thank the peer review teams. These individuals were members of volunteer companies who took their personal time to go to each fire rescue station and spent many hours meeting with companies to review documentation, recommend options, and to work with each company to make sure they could meet accreditation. To the members of the Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association, the Fire Rescue Advisory Board, your leadership ultimately made the accreditation process successful, and I really appreciate your hard work, your time, and support. To Chief Owens and Deputy Chief Jewell and to others, I want to thank you for your professionalism, your knowledge, and your dedication to the fire service. I want to thank everybody for their efforts, and really, I want to thank and congratulate every company that's represented here this evening, and maybe those that are not, for achieving accreditation. I know it took a great deal of work to get through the process. You've shown time and time again your dedication, your devotion, and your commitment to serving this community. So now, with that, I'd like to invite President Eric Smothers of the Frederick County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association, who also serves as a member of the Fire and Rescue Advisory Board, to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Executive Gardner. This has been a long process. This process started about 2 years. And what it does, as the county executive has explained, is basically take an inward look on how the fire service amongst 25 volunteer fire companies is structured and ran through Frederick County. We elected to take an inward look at ourselves and develop a template that will be used years to come to make sure that we're in compliance with our local, federal, and state standards. Each department has leadership, presidents, chief officers. Took a 2-year process to go through and look at records, financial records, company records, training records, to make sure that all of our entities were all in compliance. And I'm happy to say that all 25 of our volunteer entities have met the criteria and accreditation process. It was a lot of work, and the corporation's leadership, both the presidents, chief officers, administrative officers, the fire advisory board, should give yourself a round of applause and a pat on the back for taking an initiative that has never been done anywhere in the state of Maryland before. That is a huge undertaking to be one of the first to say we need to take an inward look at our departments and to see where our shortcomings are and then make adjustments so that we can correct and make things better for ourselves. We certainly, our communities that we serve and work in, the residents of Frederick County, we certainly appreciate your time, money, dedication that you have for your local departments. The men and women are volunteers. They work a full-time job and still come back to their communities to volunteer their time. For an EMT, it takes 6 months in order to get training. For a volunteer firefighter, just to start, is a 4-month process. To be a paramedic, it's a 2-year-long process. And our volunteers, the 1,800 members that we have spread out through Frederick County in 25 stations, they continually do that on an annual basis and meet and maintain certifications. It's unparalleled how our volunteers continue to rise to the occasion and to continue to want to be leaders within the fire service within the state of Maryland. And I certainly appreciate your time, dedication, and effort. I know it was not an easy task to go through and do this. You should be commended for your efforts, and I want to just say thank you for your time and efforts that you've done.
Thank you, President Smothers. At this time, I'd like to invite Tim Clark, the Chairman of the Fire Rescue Advisory Board.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks for coming tonight. I'd just like to echo the comments of the County Executive, President Smothers, about the process. I think everybody that went into this thought, okay, what are we looking for? What's going to happen? There was a lot of people who were a little concerned as to what the process was going to bring. But once all our members of the Fire and Rescue Advisory Board tasked with reviewing all of these companies realized that it wasn't that bad of a process. And the reason we were doing it was to help them remain a viable volunteer organization within the county. And if they had a problem, we would help them with that problem. So now we have a book that each company can keep from year to year. And they don't have to worry about 70% of the book will be completed every year. You just have to update your organizational membership. And what that does is help the organizations that may have a change in leadership from year to year not have to think about what they need to do. Most of that is all laid out for them in the book, and it'll make it a lot easier for you. So I want to acknowledge we have one other board member here tonight, and that's our citizen rep, Susan Reeder Jesse, so thank you for coming. I want to thank all the board members that helped and all the administrative and chief officers that assisted with the evaluation of all the companies. It was a long and arduous task, but it was well worth it. And I want to thank all the companies for sticking with us, and I guarantee you moving forward things will be better in the following years. We're going to sit down and fix things that we think will streamline the process. And I want to acknowledge Chief Owens and Chief Jewell for their assistance, and County Executive Gardner for the support we received through this whole process. So I promise it'll get easier. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Unfortunately, Chief Owens had a schedule out of town already and was unable to make it tonight, but we certainly want to acknowledge Chief Owens and the critical part that he played in developing and implementing this process. At this time, we'd like to present the certificates and recognize every company for the quality service that you provide the citizens of Frederick County. So would President Smothers and County Executive please come forward? The Independent Hose Company number 1, Chief Rodney Masser.
First, I'll go second, yeah. Congratulations. Thank you for your hard work. We should probably stop for a picture there.
Okay, you want a picture now?
No, we'll do it at the end. Yeah.
The Junior Fire Company number 2, Chief Keith Brown and Treasurer Jeep Abrey. The United Steam Fire Engine Company number 3, I believe they have a meeting this evening. Yeah, they have a meeting tonight, so we certainly will make sure they get their recognition.
Okay.
Citizens Truck Company number 4, President Robert Jacobs and Chief John Eldon.
These are framed very nicely. Congratulations. Thank you for all your service to our community.
Sure.
Thank you for all you do. Thank you for your service to our community. All right, take a picture.
Stick around later.
Bobby goes.
Brunswick Volunteer Fire Company, Assistant Chief Steve Shook.
Thank you.
Vigilant Hose Company of Emmitsburg, and we do want to acknowledge Vigilant Hose Company stepped forward and was the pilot program. And we want to acknowledge and thank the Vigilant Hose Company for their hard work and their efforts to really lay the groundwork to make this a success. Chief Chad Humble and President Tim Clark, past President Tim Clark is here. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Chad. The Middletown Volunteer Fire Company. And President Richard, thank you. President Richard Kaiser.
Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you. New Midway Volunteer Fire Company, Assistant Chief Brian Pescator.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's trying to sneak out.
Guardian Hose Company of Thurmont, President Wayne Stackhouse.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, okay. Walkersville Volunteer Fire Company, Chief Randy, thank you.
Who was on the Fire and Rescue Advisory Board?
Yep.
Thank you for all you do.
And Chief Williams was a member of the initial Fire Rescue Advisory Board. Chief McTighe from the Braddock Heights Volunteer Fire Company is tied up in traffic in D.C., so I don't know if another representative made it or not, but he did give me a text about a half hour ago, so we will certainly make sure that Braddock Heights Volunteer Fire Company gets their accreditation. Rocky Ridge Volunteer Fire Company, President Dale Klein, Chief Alan Hurley.
Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you. Congratulations. Quit sneaking away.
Carroll Manor Volunteer Fire Company, I'm not sure, I think they have a meeting also, I don't see any representatives here. And we'll make sure that Carroll Manor receives their accreditation information and their certification. Newmarket District Volunteer Fire Company, Chief Ben DeBorchek.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Woodsboro Volunteer Fire Company, President Mickey Fyock and, Chief Mickey Fyock and President Bob Lynn.
Mr. President, you go ahead first.
I have to switch signs here.
You did good because I didn't do it.
At least he's honest.
should I thank you too, since you didn't have anything to do with it?
Yeah, that. No, Bob, just turn around here. Man, they're pretty, they are nice.
They are nice, yes.
Is that it?
If you want to make a speech.
Liberty Town Volunteer Fire Department, Chief Chip Stevens. That engine we're showing, by the way, is now in Nicaragua.
Thank you very much.
Grace Ann Volunteer Fire Company, Julie Durgan. Brunswick Volunteer Ambulance Company, President Andy Smothers, and, excuse me, Chief Andy Smothers, sorry Dylan, and President Dylan Dixon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, congratulations.
Jefferson Volunteer Fire Company, Chief Tommy Lakin. Wolfsville Volunteer Fire Company. There you go. President Dave Fox. And you come up, Chief. Come on, Chief. Chief Steve Dvorak.
Thank you, congratulations.
Lewistown District Volunteer Fire Company, President Stahl. Urbana Volunteer Fire and Rescue, Deputy Chief Chris Smith. Chris, thank you.
Congratulations, thank you.
Walkersville Volunteer Rescue Company. Okay.
Thank you, Cynthia. Congratulations. Lindsay Murphy.
Lindsay Murphy, okay. Thank you. And the representative was Lindsay Murphy from Walkersville Company 24. Thank you. Thurmont Community Ambulance Service, President Loman Keeney.
I see one back there.
Also receiving a certificate of accreditation is the Myersville Volunteer Fire Company.
All right. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and I really want to thank all of you who are here representing your company. You're generally the leadership of your company, and I know you spend thousands of hours, not hundreds of hours, but thousands of hours dedicated to serving the citizens of this county and your community. Volunteerism is really important. It's become harder to volunteer. The training and the requirements takes longer. And I really want to, on behalf of all the citizens of Frederick County, thank you very much for your service to the people who live here. I appreciate your volunteerism and all that you do to keep our community safe. So thank you so much. Turn it over to Chip.
Thank you, Executive, and again, thanks to all the companies and everyone, both on the operational administrative side, that is making this program a success. It truly is a roadmap and a foundation for the future of our volunteer fire and rescue service in Frederick County. Thanks to everyone that come tonight as a member of the public. Thanks for the viewing public for your support of the volunteer fire and rescue service. Have a good evening.